President Trump said today vocally that Texas has played a large role in executing his immigration policy and will continue to. Governor Greg Abbott posting this video actually earlier today. It was on X, saying Texas installed more border buoys in the Rio Grande earlier today. And this move, as he always says, is to stop illegal immigration. Tonight, our Ken Molestina talking to some agencies along the border firsthand who say that they are now encouraged by a Trump presidency.
In the weeks and days leading up to the inauguration, scenes like this one have continued to play out on the riverbanks of Eagle Pass's Shelby Park.
¿De dónde vienen? ¿De dónde vienen? ¿Viene de Venezuela?
Viene jodido el pie, se cayó del tren.
¿Qué le pasó a su pie?
Se cayó el tren, se lo mochó.
¿Cuándo?
Ya el 19 de noviembre.
Ajá.
Tengo la herida viva y necesito ya.
Está sangrando.
Está sangrando. Lo estamos ayudando porque.
The men were sent north along the river, where they were told U.S. Border Patrol agents would arrest them for crossing into the U.S. illegally. Here, inside Shelby Park, Texas DPS troopers and National Guard members aren't authorized to arrest or to process any migrant for crossing illegally. That is the job of a federal immigration authority officer.
Why did this become sort of ground zero for this debate? this little park here.
The reason is because, for one, it's very ideal for anybody to cross here. The river at times is low. There's less violence across the border in Mexico and less resistance at the time before we had all this infrastructure here.
Christopher Olivares is a lieutenant with the Texas Department of Public Safety and a spokesman for Operation Lone Star, the statewide operation providing additional enforcement along more than 1,200 miles of the state's border with Mexico. It's an effort supplemented by a new National Guard base that was recently built outside of town. At its peak, Lieutenant Olivares says this area alone was seeing around 5,000 illegal border crossings daily. But he credits Operation Lone Star with an 86% drop in traffic.
You do believe that having President Trump come into the office now is going to make the job of a DPS trooper on the border easier?
It is. I think it's also going to make it more efficient. Right now that we have support now at the federal level, something that we've been wanting for the last 4 years, right? I think it's going to be very helpful to us, also helpful to the governor and what he's been able to do with Operation Lone Star. It's been very challenging in the last 4 years. You think about when we started Operation Lone Star, all the legal battles, the lawsuits, the criticism.
Last year, the ACLU released a critical report saying the state has spent more than $11 billion on Operation Lone Star and that it's led to racial profiling and primarily arresting people accused of low-level offenses like trespassing. The ACLU says the program has overwhelmingly prosecuted U.S. citizens, not migrants, for more serious charges like drug-related offenses, human smuggling, and weapons charges. And some critics who live in the area say they just want the heavy law enforcement presence to go away.
I mean, it's just so difficult that outsiders came into our community and changed the tone of how we live.
Jesse Fuentes sued unsuccessfully to have the controversial border buoys removed.
It's affecting our culture, it's affecting our history, it's affecting the way we live our day-to-day life.
As far as Operation Lone Star, do you see a day in which that's just going to go away?
You know, I'm sure at some point it will, but when to say that is, of course, that's to be determined.
In nearby rural Kinney County, there's no denying who their sheriff thinks will help with their challenges.
I'm looking at whoever's going to be the best for the country. And what we had, or what we currently have, wasn't doing what we felt needed to be done in this part of the country.
Sheriff Brad Coe showed us around town and explained how he and only 6 other full-time deputies were tasked with preventing crimes related to illegal immigration.
Pick a spot. I mean, we had them bail out of town. We had them run into literally the car ran into one of the houses of the projects.
He says smugglers chose his county because there was more open border here compared to neighboring Eagle Pass and Del Rio.
What is your hope for the county? What is your hope for the border? I mean, in a perfect world, what should this look and feel like?
What I'm hoping for is we don't have to sound the alarm every time something's coming through here. Kids couldn't go outside and play for a while because of the number of pursuits. Now we can get back to somewhat normal life.
Many along the border agree barriers and physical enforcement helps, but they're all still wondering when real policy change will come from Washington. It's something I asked Texas Governor Greg Abbott about during a border news conference.
A lot of these efforts and renewed efforts seem to be physical, boots on the ground efforts. At what point do you think, in your role as governor, you can help affect actual policy out of Washington that comes in the way of law from the highest order?
What I want to ensure we deliver is making sure that we do accomplish one task first, and that is to stop illegal immigration into the United States, and my job is to stop it into the state of Texas. After we accomplish that goal, then we can move on to other goals. And it will be up to the Trump administration and those serving in Washington, D.C. to figure out a pathway forward.
In the meantime, law enforcement officials like Lieutenant Olivares and Sheriff Coe say they'll continue their work with a commander-in-chief they believe will be friendly to their cause. Their hope is illegal crossings like these are eliminated altogether.
Okay? Okay, hasta luego. Buena suerte. Que Dios los bendiga.
Along the border in Eagle Pass, Ken Molestina, CBS News, Texas.